This is Nancy Russell type of weather, because she always liked to say, you know, it's not just the blue skies. It's so much else about the gorge, and I am hoping that by the end of this, some speaker up here will say some words that creates a divine parting of the skies. So we are gathered here today to celebrate a view, a vision, and a visionary. 3 decades ago, few people had heard of Cape Horn. There was no plan for an overlook like this. There was no plan for a trail. There was only a plan for a 16-lot subdivision. And this was in 1983. And Friends of the Columbia Gorge founder, Nancy Russell, was introduced to this proposed Rimview Estates. Now, because the National Scenic Area was not in place, there was no legal way to stop the subdivision. So Nancy got creative. She talked with her husband, Bruce, and they decided that they would take out a $300,000 loan from a bank. And they gave that as a no-interest loan to Trust for Public Land. Trust for Public Land came in and bought 12 of the 16 lots. The Forest Service then came in and bought those lots from Trust for Public Land after the Scenic Area Act passed. And it set the wheels in motion for 25 years of acquisition. And it's created a block of over 1,000 acres of public land right here. There was a 5,500 square foot house right up where these folks are standing up top at the top. And it was built before the act, so the scenic standards really didn't apply. Now, this property went out for sale in 2005, and Friends of the Columbia Gorge had just created a land trust, and we made it our first purchase. Now, the Forest Service was very interested in this property because it was surrounded by public land, but they were only interested as bare land, and they didn't have the funds to build the overlook. So Friends of the Columbia Gorge launched the campaign for Cape Horn to raise over $4 million to secure the funding to eventually purchase this property, the property where your cars are parked, the cost to remove the 2 houses, and the cost to build an overlook here. And many of the generous donors who contributed to that $4 million campaign are here today, as well as those who helped raise the money. It was a huge team effort. And I first of all want to thank everybody who contributed or helped raise money or was involved in making this a reality. So thanks. I cannot overstate the importance of what the U.S. Forest Service has done here. We owe a debt of gratitude to our next speaker, and that's the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area Manager, Dan Harkenrider.
I had an opportunity very early on in my tenure as area manager to visit with Nancy in the field. She showed me a few of her prized acquisitions, including a number of the parcels here at Cape Horn. And she passionately described the vision for the future of those parcels. In all of that discussion, she was able to work into the discussion a few interrogatories for me concerning what my land ethic was and whether I understood the conservation responsibilities that was handed to me. I very much felt that I was being interviewed for the position that I held. In all of those inquiries, Nancy showed grace, a sense of humor, and patience. And I suspect she knew fully well that eventually I would agree with her point of view. Over the years, on those rare occasions when Nancy and I were able to get into the field again, I felt fortunate to be able to listen to her describing what could be, the world of possibilities. And it was on those occasions that I began to better understand what it means to be passionately dedicated to improving the world in which we live. Clearly, Nancy and I had disagreements and a few debates. But in all of those conversations, she was always kind, respectful, and oh so very persistent in ensuring that I understood her point of view. So it goes without saying that this Cape Horn landscape, which was Nancy's rallying cry for protection in the gorge, is deserving of being dedicated to her today. I envision a time, probably very soon, when this viewpoint will be the second most photographed point within the National Scenic Area.
The final pieces of this vision would not have happened without the hard work of Nancy's son, Aubrey. Aubrey's the president of the Friends of the Columbia Gorge Land Trust. And I remember the day that we came up here with the trustees to make the decision whether we were going to buy the property. And if you thought it was socked in a little while ago, when the trustees were brought up here, it was pouring. You couldn't see 5 feet in front of you. And Aubrey and I were saying, you got to trust us. It's a great view.
Just thank you to everyone. This is a wonderful tribute to Mom. I do want to give a special thanks to the U.S. Senators who are here today. And I'm so glad the view is cleared a little bit, and I hope you'll come back on a sunny day and experience more of this beautiful spot. And when you come back, I want you to know that it'll be okay if you feel just a little bit jealous of your colleagues who represent Washington State, because it's a magnificent trail. And looking back over the years to the early days of her gorge efforts, said, I could never have imagined that anyone would not want to protect the Columbia Gorge. And to her surprise, there were people who were opposed to this effort. And it was one of the most divisive and hostile and longest land use battles of our era. And Mom wasn't someone who had a whole lot of experience in politics or in nonprofit work or in public speaking. But she had just a ferocious taste for hard work, and she loved a little bit of competition, and she really didn't know how to back down, and especially when she knew that she was doing the right thing, and there were so many good people, and they're here today in large part, so many good people who shared that conviction that she was doing the right thing to give the gorge real protection. Mom would recognize that this is a place, it's in the very finest tradition of those great, tasteful public projects which seek, in the words of Samuel Lancaster, to not mar what God has put here. And it really is, I think, I'm seeing it today for the first time, and I think it's every bit as much an example of that poetry in stone as Samuel Lancaster's highway. It's really a tremendous accomplishment. And it's moving, and I get the view too from here, so it's especially moving for me. But we brought her from the ambulance and put her on a concrete pad where the garage had been, from where the house had been, and Mom, looked across the site where previously walls had risen to block the view out the gorge to the east, and she sat there, and I asked her, so Mom, what do you think? And she said, one day this will be a great public park. And Mom, of course, I think would be surprised that one day has come so soon. After a few moments up above, when we were three years ago, we carried Mom down around the side of the house and brought her to this very spot. And she sat and enjoyed the view for a bit, and then we became worried about her strength, and we asked her, okay, Mom, are you ready to go back to Portland as planned? Or maybe just perhaps, would you be interested in seeing a little more out in the gorge? And she said, east, go east. If she were here today, she would be repeating that call, east, go east. This is, there are too many hidden treasures between here and Stevenson that deserve to be brought into the open, to be appreciated by the public, as this one now fortunately is.